Hello there, and welcome to a very cramped desk video. I'm Steve from Mac84, and I got some friends here. These are three Macintosh 512K computers. They were recently given to me by Richard Ross and Beth Ross, so thank you very much. The goal is to fix up one of these and send it on its way, but I'm curious if they work. They've been sitting around in a basement for God knows how many years, and some of them are quite interesting. Oh boy, this is an interesting machine. So let's clean them up, open them up, and see if they work. And if this is your first time here, well, we do a lot of Apple repairs and restorations on the channel, so please consider subscribing to it. Okay, well, first off, there's no way I could take one of these apart with more than one of them on the table. So we're gonna go with, let's say this one first, and then we'll work our way down. Okay, so our first mustard-colored Mac here is a Macintosh 512K, just like the other ones. And we have the model number and the label and everything on the back. And it's very grimy, although the case is in pretty good shape. There are some spots where obviously stickers were in the past, and so, yeah. But it has yellowed a bit, but it's to be expected with machines of this age. All four of the feet are there, so that's nice. And let's see if we could read off that serial number on the front. So some of that has worn away, but we have F5092EOM0001W. So there we go. And yeah, pretty nice little machine. So let's get a screwdriver here, and I probably don't have one close to me, so I'm gonna have to get up. And we're gonna open this thing up first because I wanna make sure that there's nothing crazy looking inside of here that needs attention before we try and power it on. Okay, so we have our Torx 15 screwdriver. It has to be long enough to reach into the handles here. And you do not want to forget the hidden screw behind the battery compartment. So let's take a few of these out here to get started. Oh, that is difficult to turn. A lot of these machines also had upgrades done to them where people added SCSI ports onto them, which is not an uncommon upgrade, but a very welcome one. Some of those also added additional memory too, basically making them a Mac Plus. And by doing so, you would swap the ROMs on the logic board with that of a Mac Plus. Okay, so this screwdriver barely fits in there. I need to get a longer one of these, but it's okay. It'll do the job. Putting the screws back in this way is a bit more problematic, but let's see if those will come out. Okay, now it's very important to note that the top screws are silver and the bottom two screws are black, and the thread of the screws are a little bit different. The black ones are very fine, whereas the silver ones, there is a lot more space between them. So you don't want to mess that up. You could risk messing up the plastic or just making that a looser connection there. Looks like a lot of crud is on this. Oh, that's because there's an original battery in here. Well, we could get that out easily enough. Battery acid is not fun, so you want to be a little bit protected. Oh, yeah. That is very crusty. There's a lot of green on the top of that contact there. You might not be able to see it, but... oh, yeah. Oh, that's great. Now that the battery has been removed and all the screws have been removed, we can open this up. I'm going to start by using my fingernails to just gently try and pry the corners. You don't want to use tools because you're going to mess up the plastic by digging into it because it is pretty soft plastic. You can use automotive parts like these little wedges that you could find at some stores. Sometimes that helps. I mean, it could scratch up the plastic, but this one's yellowed. It has some sticker residue on it, so I'm not really that upset if it gets a little dinged, but you also want to, take care. These machines are quite old. They're not making any new ones. Not making any new ones, rather. Looks like the top is separated. I'm going to put my fingernails between the grooves and push. There we go. And that case is opened. Now, looks pretty clean inside. We have the I/O shield that's hanging down. Now, this could come out easily. Sometimes it gets stuck back there. Oh my gosh, we have signatures! Rare! No, the signatures are stamped in every single one of these things. Very cool, though. So we do have a metal clip on the side, right there, and this I/O shield type thing, which says 802, oh, I'm sorry, it's backwards, 805-0577 Rev D. So that's what that says. See if we have space to shove this over here for now. It looks pretty clean inside. It says inspection on the analog board up top, which is interesting. Now, before you do any work or get your fingers near this CRT tube or anything in the machine, because you can accidentally slip and touch things, you do want to discharge the CRT. Now, even though this machine has not been powered on for a very long time, and it's unlikely to have any electricity stored up in the CRT, you do just want to be careful. There's an excellent video by Bruce Rain of Micus Creations who shows you how to discharge a CRT safely. Of course, you want to read up about the subject and do your own homework, but it's a great tutorial video, so check that out. Now, I'm just going to go unplug the logic board here. I'm not going to bother discharging the CRT yet, but let's go and take a look at that. So there are two cables. One is the floppy disk cable. You can easily get that out. Now, this big cable here, it takes a little bit of practice. You could easily see that you could slip here and just lift your arm up and crack the neck of this CRT, which is very fragile. Once you do that, it's no longer usable. It's gone. So I'm just going to take my fingers, go to the very bottom of this socket, of this cable rather, and just rock it back and forth, and you can see that came out pretty easily. Now, to get the logic board out, it's pretty simple. You could put a towel down if you want, but there's nothing really on this desk that's too bad. So I'm going to lean it back here. I'm going to move this cable so it doesn't get caught, because basically you could just lift this board right out. There are little grooves on either side of the metal here, and so I'm just going to do that. Sometimes you have to wiggle it back and forth a little bit because it is hooked in at the top here. There we go. And that looks like a pretty bog standard Macintosh 512K logic board. No upgrades or anything to my knowledge. Let's see what it says here. So yes, this was the logic board that was sold during the 128K, was still being sold as well, because the logic board has little markings on it. And here it says 128, and here it says 512. And they would put a mark there noting which system it is, and all they would have to do is change the memory chips and a few other small things probably. And yeah, you could sell either board because the memory and the ROM were the only real differences of this model. Now, there is a barcode on the board that is L40101-900, and this has a 1983 to 1984 label on it and has a copyright date on the main board of 8384. So very cool, what I would expect for a machine like this. So let's put the logic board back in. I'm going to inspect the analog board a little bit, then we'll give it a test. What's cool is there's actually a little sticker here that says 512K. So you can see that this, right off the bat, board is a 512K, and that's probably just a little label they put on there so when Apple was servicing these or upgrading these, they knew which board was which. Now, there is one RIFA capacitor on here, and it is right behind the power socket. So I'm very hesitant to want to turn this on. It's right over here. And yeah, if I turn this on, it'll be very briefly just to see if it turns on, because if that thing blows, this basement's going to smell, the smoke alarm's going to go off, and I'm going to have a bad time.
And now, Steve has a bad time when a RIFA cap blows.
Whoa, 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 whoa. That's the RIFA cap. Hey, it blew! Now, I could replace the RIFA capacitor. It's not really that much of a job to do. Just need the parts on hand, a soldering iron, etc. That would prolong the life of this machine. A lot of these machines, depending on the variation of the model, may have 1 or 2 or even 3 RIFA caps. I believe the 128 I was just looking at had 3. This only seems to have 1, and then it has that little red capacitor in C32. So the RIFA cap is C38 here. But either way, you just want to be careful. Things are old, they could go boom, and you just want to be aware of that. Now, this screen is filthy. There's a lot of just like dust and dirt on there, so just going to try and get some of that grime off. Not going to be able to get all of it, but I'm going to try. Just using some window cleaner, some glass cleaner here, and usually goes a long way. Yeah, there is a lot of gunk on here. Yeah, just look at that all come off of here. Now, I do want to check out the analog board here, just to make sure there's nothing that looks like it has leaked or it's suspicious or anything like that. Honestly, it looks very clean inside this machine. I don't see anything other than the RIFA cap, which has several cracks in it, but, you know, That's to be expected. But I don't see any caps bulging. I don't see any of them leaking. There's some dust on the flyback, and there's some old glue attached to a capacitor, but that's really about it. So I'm going to turn this machine this way. We're going to turn it on and see if it does anything. So I'm going to just position it like that. And we're going to plug in our floppy emulator in a bit. I like to just, turn these on, just give them like a test first before I plug anything else into it. Because if the voltage is bad, I don't want it to kill my floppy emulator. I only got one of those. Now I have this power plug plugged into a surge strip. So even if something goes wrong, I could turn it off immediately. Because even if you don't turn these machines on, that RIFA cap can blow even when the machine is switched off. All right, so I'm going to plug this in. We're going to turn it on and see if anything appears on the screen. All right, so we're getting flub, 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 flub. Probably a capacitor issue. I have 2 other machines to look at today, so I'm going to note what's wrong with this, take a few pictures, then we'll get on to the next one. Now you may be thinking, Steven, you spent like 2 seconds with that machine on. And that's because I want to replace the RIFA cap before I do anything else. Then I feel comfortable having this on for a prolonged period of time. Now I'm not going to bother putting the screws back in the handles because that's just a pain in the butt, but I will put this one behind the battery door here just to remind myself that there are screws missing. Okay, so here is the second Macintosh 512K. Now while this may look the same from the front, there's a special addition to the back. If you turn it this way, you'll notice there's a special little port added right here. That's an external SCSI port. The 512K did not have a SCSI port. The Macintosh Plus did. So this was an add-on, and a very common one. A lot of different companies did that. I wonder if this has Mac Plus ROMs in it. Probably does. And we're going to open it up and take a look. I already have a 128 or 512 with a add-on SCSI card, and it usually piggybacks the processor on the logic board. I'm very curious to see how this one is because I haven't had one with the bigger connector here. I also know someone's been inside this before because the plastic on the edge here, well, it cracked and fell off. So we're going to be very careful opening this machine, and we'll see what type of a card it has inside because I'm going to bet it's different than the one I have. So I'm going to start up here and see if there are screws in there. Yeah, there are. And again, you probably want a longer screwdriver than the one I'm using, but this is the one I have on hand, and so that's what I'm dealing with. Yeah, that is stuck in there. All right, well, let's take out the other screws and see if we could get into this machine still somehow. Maybe that'll loosen things up. There is that SCSI port there. If we undo these screws, this should just come off, and there's a ribbon cable connecting that to the logic board, but I'm going to need a better screwdriver to get that screw out of there. Hold, please. Okay, well, I think I loosened it enough. The screw's still in there. Yeah, it's not coming out. Oh, this does have the programmer switch on it. That's the reset and interrupt button, so I'm going to have to take that off before I take the case off, I think, because those probes go into the machine, and I don't want that snapping off. There we go. Yeah, see, it has these little fins there that can easily snap off if you're trying to grab the case off. All right, so we might have to undo this here also because of this SCSI add-on. So there's one screw, and that's the same screw that would have been hidden behind the battery door, like on the other one we took apart. And this should just wobble free. The battery is still there, so this is... Let me see if this screw has to be undone at all. Doesn't seem like it. Wow, this is... Oh, that battery is sad looking. Okay, yeah, that battery needs to be removed. But this cable... Let's try and show you. There's a cable here. So you might be able to barely see it. I'm sorry I'm not zoomed in here. Let me look at the monitor. Yeah, don't know if you guys could see it, but there's a cable here, and it's connecting right to this port. And the battery is behind there, and that is in bad shape. But let's try and open this carefully. I don't know if it'll let us. Oh, top is coming off. That's good. So that screw must have cleared. Ow. Let's try working on the sides here. Put my thumbnails on the bottom. There we go. All right. Let's see what kind of upgrade is inside of this thing. Now, you have to be careful because I don't... Yeah, this has like... Oh, there's a lot of slack on it. Never mind. I was going to say, we have to be careful. Open this. How are we going to do this? Sometimes these cables can go through where the battery is, but I don't think this is the case. Maybe this cable is long enough because you could unplug it, and you can. It's going to be difficult. I'll show you after I unplug it. There's a lot going on here. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. This is an interesting machine. I'm going to unplug the floppy connector. And I'm going to take a picture of this with my phone so I can put it on screen here. And you can see that SCSI connector there is actually going all the way through from there and plugging into the board. So there you go. I'm going to try my best to wiggle my hand in here and just undo that SCSI cable, which is not an easy thing to do when you have room, and I don't really have room here. That should let this go through if it's folded up in the right way, I think. Maybe. Yeah, if we bend it like up and in there, there we go. And a screw or something fell out, but we'll get that later. Okay, now I can show you what's going on here. We have a SCSI cable here plugged into the logic board, and then we have this power thing that is looking like it was wired into the original connector here from the board. And oh, there's a lot of gunk and such on this analog board here. I don't know what that is. I don't know if I'm comfortable with turning this on in this state. Well, let's have a look at the logic board either way. So to do that, I'm going to want to take out that cord here. And I'm going to have to remove this SCSI cable. There we go. When the cable's not bent, you could do it. Okay. Wow. This is interesting. Okay, let's get this logic board out of here. I have a feeling we're going to have to like bend it a little bit because it's much taller than your standard board would be. I'd really like to know how they got this in there in the first place. Boy. Okay. My goodness, look at this. Super Mac Technology Enhanced, copyright 1986. Oh boy. Okay, this is super cool. This is a Super Mac Technology Enhanced board. The copyright date of 1986, revision 3. Made in USA. How cool is that? My goodness. So how this works is this basically sits on top of the processor. And I see there's like a ribbon cable here and it's going to sit on the processor. I'm gonna try and remove this. Is that the only place where it's seated? Yeah. Oh, and there are these little washers, these little plastic poles, I guess, instead. And there are little screws. So let me try and unscrew this and see if we could pop this off, because I'm very curious. This thing is full of memory. If I were to guess, that's 6 memory slots. Wow. That's cool. Oh, wow. Yeah, Super Mac Technologies. They have this little ribbon cable with this hat or some type of apparatus here that is either soldered or somehow connected to the processor. So they are feeding signals directly into and out of the processor to make this board work, which is remarkable engineering. So they have a SCSI controller chip, I would assume, here a bunch of logic. Some of these chips are labeled SuperMac Tech. Wonder if that's the same SuperMac from later on in Apple history. But that's so cool. You have a processor up here, not a dual processor, but you had to, I guess, piggyback it. Unless they removed it. I don't know how it could remove this. I don't think they removed the processor. All of these I've seen still have the original processor. Yeah, that's still on there. Oh, wow. Okay, so there is a processor underneath this. Take a look at that. What they've done here is they have this ribbon cable with a special clip. And this clip, I don't know if you could see it. There you go. Has these little teeth on the side, and they grip onto those pins of the processor. And my goodness, is that intricate. That's really cool. Hope I can put this back on. Now I see why this needs more power. There's a Molex or whatever power connector there. Because, yeah, this is doing a lot. You have 6 RAM modules, a processor, a SCSI chip there, and some other logic here doing who knows what. Okay, I'm going to try and put this back on so we could see if it works, I guess. Did that work? Oh. Okay. Okay, so I'm just going to reseat this cable. Which is what I should have done in the first place. I should have just taken out the cable and not the board, but I didn't notice that that connected like that up there. And then there are just 2 flathead screws here that I'm going to use to reconnect this here. And then I'm very curious if this starts up now. We might need software, but I'm curious. Oh, yeah, there's corrosion on this analog board. Oh, those traces don't look too hot. Ah, crap. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I want to plug this in. This battery did some damage, didn't it? So in order for me to see how damaging it is, I'm going to have to peel that off. Okay, that wasn't too terrible. Well, the foam's all deteriorated anyway. Finally, things are working out for me. I'm going to use my multimeter in continuity mode to see if any of these traces are broken, because if they are, I won't be able to do anything as far as testing this machine until I fix that. Okay, they seem to be okay. I mean, they don't look too hot, but they seem to be connected at least. So, I guess we could try, and the worst thing is it may not work. But you could see here that this ran hot, or at least it's discolored enough that this thing was heavily used, because that's usually not just dirt, that's also like heat marks and such. And yeah, there's a lot of little bits of corrosion on a few traces, but I guess nothing horrible. I mean, it is a little dusty in here. That RIFA cap has seen better days, but none of the caps look like they're swelling or anything. So, yeah, I guess I could attempt to put this back together and we'll see what happens. No, I'm not going to be able to slide that down. I'm going to have to bend it in just like I did to get it out of there. Which is fine, it just makes it more annoying and gives me the lovely pleasure of risking slicing open my fingertips. How did they do this? I'd like to know. There's really not a lot of wiggle space to do this. Oh, you silly multimeter. Let's turn you off. So I think, yeah, that'll do it. Fingers crossed. So let's see if this wants to turn on at all. I actually take the case here, because there's a fan here that's actually in the corner that I just noticed. I just thought this was a cable, but there's a fan There's a fan in the corner right there. Now you can see it. Look at that. Okay, so I'm going to plug everything in with the case. With the exception of the SCSI port, I don't have anything to boot off of right now that's a system for this anyway. But I'm going to plug the power into the board. Or at least try to. There we go. And then we have to plug this Molex connector into the upgrade board, which is easier said than done because it wants to push everything down. Okay. That way, if the RIFA cap explodes, we have some nice fan to blow it all out, huh? That's a terrible idea. Okay, finally, this thing is all back together. That took quite a while. So I'm going to get the power cord here, and we're going to just test this very quickly to see if it boots. Oh. That was a very loud screaming sound. I don't think I'm going to try that again until I figure out what's going on. We have a trend of these Macs, don't we? Third time's a charm. Let's see. We have another 512K here, and similar SCSI upgrade, but has a smaller port there. This is the upgrade I'm more used to, but yeah, who wants to bet this doesn't work either? But I'm going to open it up just to take a look and see what's going on here. Don't tell me this one's stripped too. Come on. There we go. A lot of dust came off of that one. And then we have a Phillips screw by the SCSI port here. I probably have to take that out. And this should be similar to the other one where it should just come out. Yep. Ugh, there's a corroded battery in there too. So yeah, there you go. Might be the worst one yet. Okay. Well, let's see if this will come apart. Oh. This one has a reset interrupt switch on it too. Let's carefully remove this so we don't break it. Okay, so I got that one out. So hopefully this will now just come off easily. There we go. And I think this is a different one. Never mind. Okay. I thought this would be similar to the one I have in my 128K, but this looks different. Again. All right, let me try and unplug this SCSI cable here. Okay. All right. Well, this is a SCSI. What the heck? Well, let's take it out first. Hopefully this one will just slide right out. Doesn't want to come out. Now this one, the chips don't seem too high, like it's preventing it. What is going on here? My goodness. That is a complicated upgrade. Okay, so this is a Dove Mac Snap. I actually have one of these in the boxes, but it's a little bit different. So we have a Dove Computer Corporation 1987 Mac Snap 524. This looks like a bunch of memory. And then we have a SCSI thing here. Oh my goodness. So this is like seated on top of, I'm not going to remove this one. It's zip tied here in a few places. But this is actually like on top of multiple chips. It's on top of the processor. It's on top of some of these memory controller chips. And then there's this separate thing that is on top of the ROMs. And it looks like those are other chips that are on there. And it says remove termination resistors XYZ if external termination is used. So those are these terminators up here, these little resistor nets. And then the SCSI port is, it's still on the back of there, but it connects to this header here. It's interesting, it has 3 spots where you had to push on the board when you were installing it. It also has a number of 11720 on it. 1985 version 5.0 of MacSnap. And then up here it says 1987. And then over here, these 2 chips on the front there say high and low ROM. So this must have Mac Plus ROMs in it or something like that. One chip says 3410342B plus low, Apple 1986. The other one says 3420341C, Apple 86. So that must be the ROMs. Okay, well, we're going to plug this in and see if we get anything. Now let's inspect the analog board again on this one. RIFA cap looks, no caps look bulging or anything. Board looks pretty clean inside. Even though the battery terminal was pretty corroded, nothing really there to worry about, seemingly. So let's try and put this board back in there. Here we go again. 3, 2, 1. Hey! No image. Oh, a sad Mac. What number is that? 02080. All right, well, probably something to do with that upgrade board. But hey, maybe we could fix that, or at least now we know that this machine actually boots up. It gave us a chime. That's more than the other ones did. Well, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed my 3 cranky Macs. Unfortunately, we had some issues with all of them, but that's to be expected. They are, what, 36, 37 years old at this point? And, yeah, I kind of feel for them. But at least we had some cool upgrades in them. 2 Macintosh accelerators built into the logic boards on 2 of these machines, which was pretty neat. One was by SuperMac and one was by Dove. I think that hopefully at least the accelerators will work, even if the analog board or the logic boards are bad on these. But hey, that's a cool find, because usually I get machines that are bare bones and, well, they don't work anyway. So at least these don't work, but they have an upgrade card in them. So we have a table full of parts, 3 broken Macs, tools everywhere, and a dead battery. The ending of your typical Mac 84 video. But I guess that's about it for now. If you like these sorts of videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. You could also support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You get exclusive access to behind-the-scenes goodies and previews of videos before anybody else does. You could also follow me on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is Mac84TV. But that's about it for now. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you right here next time on Mac 84.